Welcome to Sew and Tell, where sewists from fashion theater and indie sewing bring their different perspectives to the hottest topics in the sewing community. I'm Meg Healy.
I'm Amanda Carestio.
And I'm Kate Zaynard.
We have a very, very special guest today, Jenny Rushmore of Cashmerette Patterns. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, so glad you're here. And you're going to join us for a discussion on the curvy sewing community and all things Cashmerette, as well as some recent and exciting changes. Then after that, we'll share some inspiration in our SewJo segment, and then we'll ask you to share something too. So welcome, everyone. How's everybody doing today? I think we're across 4 different time zones right now.
Oh, wow. You're right.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Wait, how 4? Amanda and I are in the same time zone. Oh, Daisha.
Oh, I guess
our producer is on a different time zone.
Yes. Our lovely producer. Yeah, but we have a UK. Jenny's you're in London right now, correct?
I'm currently in the Cotswolds, which is sort of a bucolic countryside area outside London.
Oh, I wish I was
dreamy.
There. That sounds dreamy.
It's very pretty and very boring.
I like that. I like that combo.
It's definitely not the worst place to be in a pandemic. That's what I would say.
Exactly.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can just picture it. All the movies that I've seen in the UK countries, I can just picture.
It does literally look like that, I will say. And we have red telephone boxes, thatch cottages. In the summer, this guy wears a boater hat and a pink and white striped outfit and sells ice cream. It's the quintessential English village that I live in right now.
I am so jealous. That sounds amazing.
Awesome.
All right. Well, let's jump in. I'm excited to chat today. Jenny, you worked with our team a few years ago. You wrote the Curve Appeal column for Sew News. We were so lucky to have you, but we haven't worked together since you've had your beautiful little daughter. And I wondered, how has life changed?
Well, my life has changed an awful lot, I have to say. Not least that I'm living in the UK at the moment. I'm obviously from the UK originally, as you can tell from the accent. But I've been living in Boston for 14 years, and I actually haven't lived in the UK for 20. So when the pandemic started, I'm a single mum, so I was running Cashmerette during my daughter's naps with no daycare and no help. So we decided, okay, we're going to scarp her. So became sort of a pandemic returning immigrant to the UK. So on a daily basis right now, it's a very radically different life. But to be honest, I don't think I've been as grateful for running Cashmerette as even before, since I've had my daughter. The kind of work I used to do, which was very corporate, would have been really difficult with being a single parent. But as it is, I have a fantastic team in Boston and one person in Missouri. And it really enables me to, do something I'm super passionate about, but on my own hours, and work around my daughter. So if she's sick or if a fire engine comes into the village, that's not a time to work. That's a time to go and stand and wave at the firemen for a while.
Exactly.
So it's been really good. I certainly would say that I work much more intensely now. I definitely used to mess about a bit.
Yeah.
I get into the office and I'd be like, oh, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll have a chat. And now I only get to work about 4 hours a day when she's with her grandparents. And it's like nose to the laptop the entire time. And then I feel like at the end I go, and then I go and have dinner and then I put her to bed.
Yeah. I definitely know that feeling. I feel like having less time will definitely make you be more focused with the time that you have. So Cashmerette was one of the first pattern companies to focus on designs for plus size sewists. And when did you, what's the official start date of Cashmerette? You guys have been around for a while.
Yeah, we launched our first pattern in October of 2015, which was the Appleton wrap dress.
Right. I remember that one. Much beloved. And you are focusing on some new size ranges. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about what motivated that change.
Sure. So I started Cashmerette because, I'm plus size myself. And I came to sewing because I was like, okay, maybe I can finally have clothes that fit me and actually reflect my style. Because I used to find that even if I could find clothes that fit me in a shop, like, I don't want to wear butterflies and cold shoulder tops, right? Like, that wasn't what I was after. So I thought, well, maybe sewing would solve that. But the problem was, especially back in 2010 when I started, there were almost no sewing patterns that came in my size, which is kind of crazy because I'm about a ready to wear 18 now, and at the time I was like a 14, and I'd be the biggest size usually, and my boobs, I'm an H cup bra, they were never in it. Right. So, obviously there was a bit of a longer story there, but the end point is I thought, I'm going to be the change I want to see in the world. And I will do plus size patterns. And I won't just do that. I will do them in larger cup sizes because we found in the Curvy Sewing Collective, which I also co-founded, in the survey we ran for them, that actually more plus size women wear an H cup bra than a B. And yet the vast majority of sewing patterns were for a B cup. So the sizing and the cup sizing was sort of as important as the expansion. So, we now have over 30 patterns. There was a fantastic response, honestly, like immediately when we launched, because I think people had been wanting this for so long. Now, what's been amazing is seeing the evolution of the market in the last 5 years. So when I started, 0 options. And when I launched Cashmerette, I think I maybe had 1 option, but I made like a size 26 in McCall's, which doesn't make any sense, but there you go. And often they don't even go to a 26. So like I couldn't even make big 4 patterns. But there's been huge movement. So many props to so many sort of campaigners, because I really think that's what happened. I think partly people saw Cashmerette, we made some money, there must be some people there, so it might be worth expanding. But also lots and lots of people on social media were saying, like, I'm really excluded. And also the average woman in America is an 18. So if you finish at an 18, that makes no sense, Or if you say an 18 is your XXL, that's totally illogical. Like your medium should actually be a size 18 because that's the average size of a woman in America. So now I actually saw the other day, there's an Instagram called the Curvy Pattern Database, and they're collecting like all the information about the different pattern companies. There are now over 100. And in 2010, there were 0 as far as I was aware. So now there's over 100, which is fantastic. And what we found is that more and more also of the like popular indies have gone to like a broad pattern range, a broad size range. So like Grain Line Studio, Closet Core Patterns, True Bias. And that's great. So then I was at the point, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Where do we go from here? How do we grow? So the first thing I did is expand to a 32 because we started at a 28 and we went to a 32. And because we have the cup sizes, the bust size is more like sort of like a 36 in another pattern company. And then we thought, well, what are we being consistently asked about? And since the very first day I launched, I was being asked about patterns for smaller sewists with big boobs. Because the reality is, it is much easier to find a sewing pattern in a 6 than a 32, like no doubt. But there are literally, there's one other pattern company I know of, Gertie, who does big cup sizes and small sizes. But apart from that, like there's pretty much no one else. So we started looking at it and thinking, like, is this something that would be right for us to do? And, what would it mean? And the more we researched it, the more we were like, it makes sense. Like, we know how to fit big boobs. We know what looks good. We have this whole catalog of brands of patterns that already work. So yeah, that's what we decided to do. It was really important to me to do plus size first, and like have that great base. And the good news is for our current plus size customers is this is actually really great news because the more we're able to sell and the bigger we're able to go to the company, like the more we're able to do. And we actually have a couple of like really big things coming up later in this year, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but really big things, which have been sort of enabled by the fact that we're growing the business in this way.
That is awesome.
So excited for the end of the year.
I know. Good things. I was wondering too, if you could speak a little bit about, I know that you've obviously put a lot of thought into this expansion. And one thing I noticed that you're doing is really you're expanding the community, but you're doing it in a really intentional way, and you're creating some different feeds that are kind of based on different sizing, which I just saw. That must be a pretty new thing. I think I saw that this morning on Instagram. Yeah. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I was more than aware that when we announced we were going to 0 to 32, that some people would be disappointed. And it was a difficult one, like it was something that required a lot of thought and analysis, and also discussion of the team about like, how can we do our absolute most for our existing customers who are like the heart of Cashmerette? Yeah. And also, how can we stay always plus size first, right? So almost every other brand is straight size first and plus size an afterthought. But we're not going to be like that. We're plus size at our heart, and the straight size is the afterthought, right? So we were kind of thinking about like, what could we do for people who it's really important to them to sort of stay in a safe space of plus size sewists. And I totally understand why. Like for a long time, I curated my Instagram feed to only see larger bodies like mine. And it had a huge impact on like my self-confidence, and also on like having an accurate self-representation of my body. Like it's very easy to like have a weird, like inaccurate view of what you look like. And I found the more I looked at plus size people, the more I'd like got a much more positive one and a much more accurate idea. So we discussed as a team, like in great detail, like what could we do in different platforms to make sure that people who currently really value us for that, have the option to continue. So, as you alluded to, on Instagram, our main account will now be, our main account. It will show from 0 to 32, although with a bias towards plus sizes still. But we also set up an Instagram called Cashmerette 12 to 32. And on that one, it's exactly the same content, but only seeing models and sewists who are 12 or bigger. So if you want to only do that, you can. And on that one, when we come out with a new pattern that's 0 to 32, we'll announce it, but you'll only see the bigger models. You won't see the smaller models. We won't repost smaller sewists there. On the 0 to 32 one, you'll see everything. We did get the question, well, why don't you set up a new one just for straight size? So why don't you make this one plus size and another one that's 0 to 16? And this is where like I sort of get a bit into like, like justice issues. I think personally that smaller people should see plus size people all the time. I think that they should see them looking gorgeous and confident and happy. And I think that there isn't enough representation of plus size bodies just generally in the media. So I think it's actually really important for them to not be over in a corner and to constantly have this reinforcement of like, there's this whole kaleidoscope of people. But it's a little bit different when you're plus size, right? Like it's a group that experiences huge discrimination all the time and huge pressure to look different. Straight size people do not get the same pressure to look different constantly. I'm not saying you can't have body image issues when you're smaller, like of course you can, or like have challenges fitting, but it's not the same like pervasive societal like pressure. Right. So that's why we felt like that was the right thing to do. On the newsletter, we now have options and you can pick what you want to see. So the same thing's going to happen. You can just get newsletters of people who look like you if you're plus size. In our Facebook community groups, we have 2 groups as well. And then on our website, you're going to be able to filter just for the patterns in your size. So we're trying to do our absolute most. I know at the end of the day, there will be some people who still feel disappointed. And I'm really sorry about that. Like, I understand why they feel disappointed. And I realize that it's just because they love the brand so much. So in a way, it's sort of a flattering thing that they love it. And I'd feel bad about the fact that, not 100% of people feel awesome. But I will say 99% of the feedback we've had has been overwhelmingly positive, both from the new straight size people who'll be able to fit in, but also from a lot of plus size people who are like, well, I have a friend, she's a 10 and she's a GH bust and I'm so excited to be able to sew for her. Or, my mum has been ogling what you do forever, but she's a 2 with really big boobs, like now she can join in. So I'm very positive about it. I think they'll always, change is always a bit difficult, right? But we're doing our most to try and be as thoughtful as we can. And ultimately, the proof's in the pudding. Some people have said to me, well, how do I know you'll continue to prioritize plus size? Or what if you don't? And all I can say to that is, you just have to trust me for a little bit. You'll see that it's true. Like, I'm plus size. I care passionately about this topic. You're going to see that continues to be the core of our company.
Right. so thoughtful. And I mean, I love that. I can definitely see how change would be hard for folks in that community. But I also think that, I mean, I love the starting place, which was to be more inclusive to this otherwise kind of forgotten community of sewists who are those smaller sizes, but have the bust fitting issues as well. So I don't know. That's pretty inspiring, though, the way that you're approaching it and how thoughtful you are about it. You talked a little bit about kind of how the curvy sewing landscape has changed, and I know that this is I feel like on the folks who were predominantly releasing straight size patterns, I feel like this past year has really, a lot of people have been spending time going back to their patterns, regrading them. It's really been exciting to see the amount of energy that has been placed on that. And I wondered, you know, do you feel like things are generally better now? What kind of issues are you still seeing? Where can the sewing community as a whole still do better?
Yeah, so I think there's been fantastic progress. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, in a perfect world, every pattern would be available in every size, and it isn't. But I mean, the difference between now and 2010 is like, you know, night and day. There's still room. I mean, one obvious thing is patterns for larger plus sizes. So unless you're like a custom draft, you know, type of program, like algorithmic program that creates sewing patterns to numbers, you have to pick a top size, right? So even if your top size was a 50, someone will be a 52. But at the moment, there's sort of a cluster, there's a sort of an end point around 28 to 32. And, you know, there are plenty of people who are bigger than 32 and people who don't fit in Cashmerette as well. So I think, you know, that is certainly an opportunity. There are a couple of brands. I mean, Connie Crawford is like the famous one who's done bigger sizes for a long time. But, you know, again, like, you know, plus size people like every style, right? So like Connie Crawford's one style, but that doesn't mean like, well, hooray, everyone's fine, you know, just make Connie Crawford. Like, no, like maybe that's not what you're into. Munner and Broad came out and they have a great sizing system that goes a couple of sizes beyond us now as well. And also some companies are offering to grade up if you need a bigger size, which I think is also like a really cool thing. There are still key pattern companies that are very prominent and well known who haven't expanded into true plus sizes. So, you know, there's still progress to be made there. And I do think, you know, one thing that's incredibly important is the quality. So you can't just grade up sort of blindly. You know, you really do need to like develop a different block and understand. And so, for instance, like, you know, there are sewists of all cup sizes. So obviously there are plus size sewists who are like an A cup or B cup, like loads of them.
That's me.
But,
hi.
But sometimes like you'll see like really gigantic shoulders. I mean, I had that problem in a lot of big four patterns, honestly. Like they assumed I was 6'7", that I had like incredibly long arms, that I'm like a linebacker. And that's basically from like, you know, not very high quality grading, to be perfectly honest, or like not using blocks in the appropriate way. So I think quality is still really important. The final thing I'd say, and this is actually more to sewing pattern designers, is that the way you communicate about it is really important. And I keep on seeing people getting tripped up by this. And it actually just happened this week again. As it happens, I guess this is an exclusive for you guys. I'm writing an ebook right now. I haven't finished it yet. I'm writing an ebook for sewing pattern designers who want to go into bigger sizes, sort of just giving them my advice, because I advise people behind the scenes all the time. But I thought, you know what, I will capture it in one place and talk about it. And there's a huge chunk about communications. And here I think is the issue. If you are not plus size yourself, it's very likely that there's a lot of stuff that you just don't know, but you also don't feel in your gut about what it's like to be plus size. And I think there are parallels, right? Like, let's just say I'm not disabled, but if I wanted to do stuff for disabled sewists, like, I wouldn't assume that I understood what it was like to be disabled, right? I would be like, I need to work with someone disabled to figure this out. Well, you know, and there's all kinds of like parallels I could think of, right? Just like an identity that you're not. Like if I did men's patterns, like I'm not a man. I don't know what like cisgender men want to wear. You know, I would work with them. And I think there's this problem sometimes where straight size sewing pattern designers are like, we'll go into plus size, and they don't really work with plus size people, like either on their team or as consultants. And what they don't understand is like what it's like to be plus size and have been excluded for so long. And I have full sympathy, because if it's a lot of work to expand your sizing, right? And so there's a tendency sometimes for them to say like, hey guys, we're expanding. It's so much work, but we're doing it for you. It's really hard, guys. It's really hard. Well, people are not going to be positive to that. It's like, you're basically telling me that my body's hard. You're basically telling me like, oh, it's so much work. Like, look what I'm doing for you. Think about it. No one wants to be told that. Like, of course not. And it might be true. This is the thing. Like, it's not that I'm saying it isn't true. Like, you might find it hard, although I will point out, drafting for plus sizes isn't hard if you know how to do it. What they're actually saying is that they don't know how to do it and they're learning a new thing. For me, drafting for straight sizes is really hard. Like, I kid you not. Like, we found it really difficult doing it, but it's not because straight size bodies are inherently difficult. It's just because we haven't done it before. Right? So I think that's like a really big thing, because what I think is just really sad is that sometimes sewing pattern companies are doing a great size expansion, but then because of the way it's talked about, they get a lot of negativity. And I'm sure that they're like, well, why did I bother? I tried to do it. You said you wanted it. Now I'm getting like criticized publicly. And there is a way to avoid that. So that's part of what I'm trying to do, and sort of communicating to straight size designers, like, this is how it works. And there are totally ways to do it where people are going to be really positive. Like, one that immediately springs to mind is Helen's Closet. And Helen Wilkinson, she did a great job of expanding to bigger sizes in like a really considered and like sensitive way. And so she's like sort of proof it can be done really, really well.
That sounds like it's going to be such a good resource. That's amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate so much that you spent so much time developing this knowledge base, but I've also seen you out there trying to help people with these issues as they come up, with the communication, and then obviously putting together this resource for people. So that's really amazing that you're kind of pushing us and helping us move forward as a sewing community. I think that's awesome. When you wrote for Sew News, your focus was on fit, and I feel like people, there's still some of us who do a lot of sewing without making muslins first and just jump in and cut our fabric and just go willy-nilly and make mistakes and try to figure it out later. But I feel like the sewing community as a whole online, and on Instagram in particular, I'm seeing a lot more people kind of get into these nuanced fitting explorations and, muslin making 5 times over as they work to kind of, conquer some of these fitting issues, and find solutions for themselves. So I wondered, what are the common adjustments that you see people still kind of struggling with?
I think the number one thing people struggle with is knowing what adjustments they need to make.
Yeah.
So I think like when you start and you make something and you're like, it doesn't fit, you're like, but how? Like, if it's just a bit too small or a bit too big, that's quite obvious, right? But if, it's pinching in your like upper armpit area, well, what do you have to do? Do you go up a size? Do you change the sleeve? Do you change above the boob? Like, it's very hard to figure that out. And that's actually, we have an online workshop called Fitting for Curves. And it's been very popular. And one of the reasons why is because I literally wear things that don't fit very well. And I show you like, see this here? That's what this means. See this here? That's what this means. And then I do the adjustment. And then I show you afterwards when it fit. And that's the bit where we've had people saying like, oh, that's the aha. Because people will be like, well, I've heard about a full bust adjustment, but how do I know I need it? And sometimes there's a way of doing it like sort of mathematically, right? You look at your numbers, you look at the numbers of the chart. But the easiest thing to do actually is make a muslin, put it on, and then learn basically how to, read what needs to be done. By far the most common adjustment in the plus size community is a full bust adjustment. Not on Cashmerette, because we cover like at least 90% of people on that front. But for other brands, it's incredibly common. More plus size women are an H cup than a B cup. So if they're making B cup patterns, they're going to be having to do big full bust adjustments. And the FBA is a sort of interesting one. Like, in some senses, it's quite an advanced adjustment. Like, it's a lot more than just grading between sizes or making a waist bigger. But it is something that you can master. You know, you need to learn like how you do it for like a darted pattern versus versus a non-darted or a knit. But there is a lot of information available. Like, as I mentioned in my workshop, we have free blog posts as well. But that's the one that I see people needing to make most often. And that's the one I think that's transformational, because if you've had big boobs, there's a very good chance that your entire life you have never worn clothes that fit you well, unless they were stretchy. That was certainly me. And I think, you know, for many people, and I've seen this in workshops I've taught in person, there's this moment of revelation, and they'll say things like, I literally thought I couldn't wear a button down shirt, because that's the funny thing, that they blame their bodies, right? Like, they think, well, my body means that.
Right.
But the reality is, and I've said this, like, I could make a button down shirt to fit a mouse or to fit a blue whale. Right? Like, there are no dimensions that a button down shirt can't fit. Like, you just have to make the pattern right and buy enough fabric. Like, anyone can wear anything. But it can be a very profound realization, actually, for people who feel that, you know, their body didn't fit the mold that shops told them they had to fit in. Like, we're all in a factory made, to suddenly realize, actually, every option is an option. You know, not just this little segment over here, but like, you can make literally anything in any style, in any fabric you want. And I went through that too. Like, I thought for a long time, like, people with my body shape can't wear leather jackets. And it was years before I was like, oh, yes, I can, if it comes in my size and it fits me well. So for me, like, I think learning to sew is like, you know, fantastic. But I think learning to fit is really quite profound.
That makes a lot of sense. I know, it's so funny how when you start sewing, I mean, I think you can kind of perpetuate these things, but you also realize kind of the rules that you've made for yourself about how you dress and what you can and can't wear. And I, like, even though I feel like I've got a good relationship with my body and I've got a good sense of my style, I still, you know, hit up against those rules every now and then. And I'm like, well, why do I think that I can't do that? That's just, I don't know. It's, I
think there's lots of examples of that. Like, I thought I couldn't tuck in tops for like, you know, the first 30 years of my life. And what I didn't realize is that if your pants or your skirts fit you, well, then you can. I mean, obviously anyone can do anything, but like, you know, it then works. But you've got to sort of just know about like proportion and fit together.
Right. Agreed. Meg, I know you had a couple of questions as well.
Yes, I was just even my questions kind of evolved now from hearing this great conversation and what you've had to say, Jenny. Just in terms of, I've seen you've had calls in the past for fit models, and do you use any and now that has me questioning, for these pattern companies trying to expand site, like, what are the dress form? Like, those must be limited too, right? These companies that even make dress forms for these larger sizes, like, I'm just wondering, I guess, your comparison between using, you know, dress forms and fit models.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that?
Yeah, so it's actually a very ongoing question for us at the moment, especially because I'm currently in the UK and everyone else is in America.
Right.
So, you know, I have historically been, well, again, it's actually an interesting one, right? I am not the exact 18 or exact 20 of Cashmerette. I'm between the 18 and 20. We have used me a lot, but what we do is we sort of bear in mind I'm not the perfect size, right? So like, I'm the 18GH in the top, but my waist is between a 20 and a 22. So we don't fit things precisely to me, because then the waist would be too big. It does mean that we have slightly generous waists, which I think most people appreciate. But we also have an Alvaform mannequin from Alvanon in a size 18. Now, it's great, and I would say that from my perspective, of all the plus size mannequins that I have seen and researched, it's the best one. But
Okay.
one, it's eye-wateringly expensive, especially when you count the $2,000 shipping charge
Wow.
from China.
Wow.
So you're looking at $4,000 or $5,000 for one of those mannequins, which I invested in at the very beginning of Cashmerette. So, that's paid off now. But that's hard. And also, it's not ideal because, okay, it's better than normal mannequins. There's a slightly forward shoulder. It has a marginally squishy tummy, although in a sort of like plus size model, beach, swim model kind of way, like not really.
Mm-hmm.
But, the arms are not great. And, it doesn't sit down. It doesn't move around. It doesn't tell you how things move. So I think, I would be very reluctant to only fit on a mannequin. I mean, I think that actually would be like a really bad idea. But having one and also having fit models is important. The other thing is, we use pattern testers, sometimes multiple rounds before we go out to market. And we use people, across our size range, and we pay them. So it is an investment. But that also is really great because, as you guys know, you can have the exact same measurements as someone else and actually have a really different body shape. So we need to sort of always be understanding, we need to hit a good average. One thing that's kind of interesting at the moment, we're developing a blazer and we've been doing behind the scenes posts. We decided that we would show people basically how hard it is to develop a sewing pattern, and especially a difficult one. And I think some people have been a little bit taken aback by the realization that there is no such thing as the perfect fit of a sewing pattern. There could be the perfect fit on me, Jenny Rushmore, but no one else in the entire world has the exact body of me. I am a special snowflake. And so therefore, what that actually means when you go to testing is, it's not, does it look perfect on everybody? Because it can't by definition. By absolute definition, it cannot look good on every person in the test. What you're going for is an average. If the sleeve is twisting on everyone, you've got a problem. You need to change that sleeve. But we often get the feedback. Half the people will tell us the bodice is too long, and half the people will tell us the bodice is too short. To which my answer is probably okay. Right? It's probably in the middle. Or, one person, we have it in the blazer. We're doing a third round of testing. I can't even remember how many rounds of testing now. We're doing another round of testing at the moment. And one person is saying the apex is just way, way too high. Okay, maybe. Let's see what everyone else is saying. Right? And then the next person came in and said it was a little bit low. So that's why you have to really, you have to try different people and you have to kind of see where you're getting to and get, a good average basically. Which I think some people, it sort of messes with the head of it. It's like, I thought you were going for perfect, but there is no perfect. You're going for the best thing that's going to fit as many people decently as possible.
Yeah, likely there are going to still be some changes that you have to make to fit your unique body. Yeah,
I mean, the ultimate thing is to try and find a pattern company where the underlying block is close to your body, right? And it is funny because we have a couple of mega fans who make everything we make, and they all look so similar to me. So similar. And some of them have the exact same measurements as me, and some of them are bigger or smaller, but I look at them and it's that's my body, that's my proportions. And so as a result, everything looks amazing on them. But of course, that's a small percent of the population. So I know one of my team finds True Bias fits her precisely. So everything she makes from True Bias fits her. And sometimes you're very lucky and you win the jackpot and you find a company that just perfectly fits you.
I mean, that is kind of the amazing thing about having so many indie designers to choose from, that you really kind of can. I mean, thinking about how it used to be when you would just, go get your paper envelope from the store, and the amount of options that you have now between style and also fit, because everybody does have those nuances. I'm glad you mentioned your blazer pattern, because I've been watching, I've been seeing the updates on Instagram about that, and that does seem like that's a heroic process. I mean, I think that I think it's going to be well worth it, and I'm sure that people are going to be happy with it. And I wondered if there were any other. You mentioned a couple that it's going to be a big year. Is there anything else? Any other tidbits, sneak peeks you can give us before we let you go today?
Well, this year we're actually doing the 4 most requested things we've ever had all in one year. So
Nice.
last month or in January, we launched the Upton Mix and Match expansion pack because since day one of the Upton, one of our most successful patterns ever, we've had people asking for sleeves. So we decided to go all out. So we did princess sleeves. We had 7 different sleeve options, new neckline options, new skirt options, new waistline. And actually, I just told the team today that last month was our most successful month ever, except for having a sale. Wow. So people really, really love that. So the blazer is another one.
Yep.
Our smaller size range is another one. And I'm super excited that the first thing we're coming out with on that is the Appleton dress because it's our classic and what we're known for. So that's the first one coming out there, and we'll have a handful more. And then we're working on another couple of things, and I guess I'll give you another exclusive. Why not? One of the other big things we're working on is woven trousers. So just saying that sends shivers down my spine because if you think fitting a blazer is hard, fitting woven trousers and getting a good average for people. And in the past, we've done jeans, stretch jeans, much easier, and we've done very wide leg pants. Also much easier. But this time we are doing a suitable for work, like classic type. Trousers. We have, I will say it's very exciting. So almost all plus size women, and I would venture to say probably all, and in fact many others, spread when we sit down, right? So when I'm standing up, my waist is, 41 inches. And when I sit down, I think it's 44 inches or something like that, right? And that makes woven trousers really hard to wear and fit because if they fit me standing up, they dig in when I'm sitting down, or if they fit me sitting down, they will be around my ankles when I stand up. And traditionally, you say, well, use elastic or do a stretch. Well, we have found through lots of research a very cool mechanism that typically was used in men's trousers, but we think we can figure it out for women's trousers that will basically, there's no visible elastic, there's no ruching, there's no gathering, but will allow your pants to expand when you sit down invisibly. So I'm very excited about that. We're sort of tackling the instructions now because, there is no guidebook to how you construct things like this. But we're really excited about it. So we have other things coming up, but those are the big things this year.
That sounds magical and mysterious.
Ooh,
and
it
kind
of is. Yeah, it is mysterious.
I love it.
I'm so intrigued.
I know.
I feel like when I can go shopping again into stores, I just want to go to the men's set and look inside.
What's crazy to me is that women actually spread out much more than men do, right? We have much more fat deposits on our lower bodies. So why are men getting the innovations, right? It's the same as why do men get so many more gradations and sizing than women do in stores? I mean, it makes no sense. The patriarchy. That's the answer.
Exactly. I know, shopping for a suit, you have so many options for lengths and it's you can really.
But women are all 5'5", according to the shops.
Right.
Oh, your insight is just truly inspiring. You are just a fit knowledge, inspiration. It's been such a joy hearing you talk about all of this.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you so much, Jenny. I feel like, as I mentioned, I feel like you've been such a good resource for this community, a good inspiration for this community. And I can't wait for your very big year. Sounds like
Thank you very much.
Exciting.
Yeah. Lots of work, exciting, but we'll get there. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. This was lots of fun.
Oh, thanks, anytime. Come back anytime.
Watch out. I'll actually come back every week.
All right, we are to my favorite point in the show where we talk about our SewJo or our sewing inspiration. So let's just go around the table. And Kate, do you mind starting us off?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm actually really, really full of SewJo today.
Yay! We're so excited.
I know. So I had been talking before about making a pair of overalls, and I had to kind of pause on my current project, which is a pieced tamarack jacket, because I was doing machine embroidery for my quilting, and my machine was having trouble. So I took it in to be serviced. And so it's out for a bit. So in the meantime, I picked up some linen rayon blend in a dark teal. It reminds me a lot of the famous Burnside bibs that we featured in an issue of Creative Machine Embroidery a few years ago. And so they're all cut out. They're all, the edges are serged. And as soon as I am finished recording today, I am getting on those overalls and I am so excited.
Wait, which pattern are you using?
I'm using the Greer jumpsuit pattern from Hey June Handmade, which has a view that's overalls. So,
oh my gosh, that is so exciting!
What color is the fabric?
It's like dark teal.
Oh, that's going to be pretty.
I think so.
That ties into my SewJo because I just finished making some overalls. Out of a tablecloth, but they're awesome. I haven't taken pictures yet, but I will. But I am totally team overalls, especially for this time of year. Like it's a good. I mean, you can still make it cozy, and then, but especially if you're using like a linen or tablecloth, you can make them work for you all the way into the summer.
Yeah.
So my SewJo is definitely overalls, but I just found out about this event that is going to happen later on this month in the Denver area. And it's a roller skate disco event. And I haven't really decided if I'm full on going yet. But I've already been thinking about what outfit I would make. And that is getting me through. So
you need
so many options.
You need to make sure that you make a coordinating mask.
Oh, yeah, exactly. With some fringe or sequins or stuff.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
How about you, Meg?
Fringe mask. That would be so funny. You would know what it feels like to have a beard.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, actually, speaking of overalls, I also and how Jenny was mentioning Helen's Closet, I bought 2 patterns from Helen's Closet this weekend, the Avery leggings, which I have ready to cut out in the spandex I've been holding on to that I got in New York on our honeymoon. I've been saving it, and I just thought I'm making the Avery leggings with it. And I've also got their Yanta overalls. So I really want to make some overalls too.
How did we all just get on the overalls wavelength?
Well, for me, it was talking about fitting pants a couple of episodes ago. And I was like, I don't want to. What's a way that I can make pants where I don't have to fit them very closely? And actually, my mom yesterday, she's like, why are you making overalls? And I'm like, because I don't have to fit the waist.
Yeah, and you don't have to wear anything on your waist, which is the real beauty of it.
Built-in suspenders.
Yep,
yes, exactly. Yeah, that's really funny. The Yanta overalls were on my list of possibilities.
So good.
Yeah, so may still happen. We'll see.
That would, oh my gosh, next episode, we're just all recording in our overalls, just comfy.
Deal.
I like
Deal.
Deal. So let's hop into our now Sew and Tell segment. And last episode's question was, what are your sewing goals for 2021? They might be overalls like ours.
Overalls all the time.
All overalls, yes.
On Instagram, we heard from In Making 12, who said, my goal for this year is to sew my own style wardrobe and share my sewing and pattern making knowledge via this making journey. I love that. I love that. It's like finding your own style and then also sharing that out because that can be such an empowering and beautiful moment. So that's a lovely goal. A+.
Yeah. We also heard from our good friend at Sadie Fox Studio. Hi, Sadie. Who said, my sewing goals this year are based in practicality. Undies, socks, comfy bottoms, and all season tops. I absolutely loved the idea you mentioned in the episode about using fabric from your stash for the Make 9 challenge. I might have to incorporate that into my goals as well. Thanks for keeping me company while I create. Well, you're welcome.
Anytime. And lastly, we heard from River Tywin Designs, and they said to learn how to use my serger and to insert a zipper. In brackets, zippers are my kryptonite. And when I first read this, I thought that they said how to use my serger to insert a zipper. And wow, that is quite the goal. Next level. But I just thought that was funny. But yeah, even I still struggle with zippers. I need to work on my, especially those like a lapped zipper. I can't remember the last lap zipper. But I do like them. I need to expand from my invisible. I need to bring my zippers
out into the world.
Yes. Out into the world. Oh,
love it.
Yeah, well, that was such a fun episode. I loved talking with Jenny. I'm so glad she could join us. And I'm loving how we're all in the overall train.
Totally. Hey, Meg, don't forget to ask this week's Sew and Tell question.
Oh my gosh. I did that again, didn't I? Oh, and we don't even, okay, let me. And this week's question is, this has happened many times before. I just close it out without asking the question because we still answer it. And we want to know, what fit issues have you conquered, or what are you still struggling with? So going in with our conversation with Jenny, I definitely want to work on some, my fitting skills. And, she really inspired me to hone in a little bit more on that and break out my design rulers more often.
She is such an inspiring lady. I feel like she's been such a positive force in this community and such a great resource. And I don't know, I'm fired up after talking to her.
Me too.
Sure. I love it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be grabbing that dress pattern as soon as it's ready in all the sizes. And yeah, it's great.
Exactly. Well, that was great convo, you guys.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Next time.
Happy stitching, y'all. For links to everything we talked about in this episode, go to our show notes page at sewdaily.com/sewandtell. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at sewandtellpodcast@goldenpeakmedia.com or visit us on Instagram at sewandtellpod. Answer the Sew and Tell question, tell us your SewJo, or just leave us some feedback. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe on your podcasting platform of choice. And please leave us a review, ideally a good one, because that helps listeners like you find our podcast. And tell your sewing friends about us too. Thanks for listening, and happy stitching. Sew and Tell is a Sew Daily podcast and produced by Golden Peak Media. It's hosted and produced by Meg Healy, Amanda Carestio, and me, Kate Zaynard. Daisha Clay is our producer. Director of podcasts is Jared Mayer. Tiffany Warble is Director of Content. Kelsey Ratterman handles our marketing, and Andrea Lotz does all things digital. If you'd like more information on sponsoring or advertising on Sew and Tell, go to goldenpeakmedia.com.